Good evening. I now call the January 11th meeting of the Pima Community College Governing Board to order. At this time, I would like to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To continue on, we're going to initiate the roll call. At this time, we're going to initiate in reference to doing the roll call. Mr. Sylvan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wade McLean. Here. Teresa Rial.
Here.
Maria Garcia.
Here.
Greg Taylor.
Here.
Luis Gonzalez.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all board members are present.
For the first item of business, we will now conduct the election of the board chair. We're going to open the floor for nominations for chair.
Hold on. Sorry. We're going to do a motion to suspend. I don't know what footage of Jeff.
So okay, so our acting chair has announced the next agenda item and opened the floor for nominations. I understand there might be a procedural motion.
Okay. So,
Mr. Chair, point of order. Being one of the new people on board, I'd like to ask.
Sorry, Mr. McLean. So for the microphones, you have to push. There's a little red button at the bottom.
There's another thing where you need to put on the orientation list. The whole time? Yep. Can't we get one of those buttons that stick open?
Yours might stay open. Some of them do, some of them don't.
okay.
Is it on? Oh, thank you. I asked for a point of order because being one of the new board members, I want to make sure that I understand the procedures for this agenda item. Is there any criteria that we have set in our bylaws that we need to address when nominating and or electing chair and vice chair?
Okay, so there are actually, would it be helpful? I can put that bylaw article up on the screen if that would be helpful. And it does pertain, I believe, to the procedural motion that Ms. Garcia is referencing. So if it's okay with the board, let me just walk through that provision real quickly, and then you can decide how to proceed after that. Well, if that's not going to work, I can read it. It's not very long.
I'm gonna-
Well, all right, so let's, in the interest of time, I'll just read it. It's only a few sentences. So Article 4 of the bylaws has provisions about the election of officers, and the pertinent provision says, "The board shall nominate and elect officers for a term of 2 years at the annual meeting," which is just Article 6. Any nominee for either chair or vice chair must have demonstrated compliance with all board bylaws and policies, as well as a commitment to such continued compliance. Exceptions can be made to this section by majority vote. So that means exceptions can be made to the provisions of what I just read by a majority vote. So, and I guess if you don't mind, I'll set the stage. So I know.
Go ahead, sir, Mr. Silva.
Thank you. Just to see if this will help clarify things. So I believe Ms. Garcia has a motion to make an exception to one of the provisions, and then the board will need to, well, so, and let me just quickly run through how we normally do motions. So normally what happens is a board member makes a motion. There has to be a second. If there's a second, then there's discussion about the motion, possible amendment. At some point, the board chair will ask if there's any further discussion. Once discussion concludes, then the board chair calls for the vote. Typically, that's a voice vote, so just all in favor say aye or something similar. All those in favor say nay. If it's an important item, we can do roll call votes, and we do that. We do that for certain specific topics. Again, just to kind of lay the context, so the issue here is going to be about the exception, a request for an exception to the provision about compliance with the bylaws and policies, because there has been that prior, for a couple of things that the board should consider. So there was a prior finding of noncompliance involving more than one board member. So the board would have to make an exception, and then the other factor the board should consider is the college does have a monitoring report due to HLC. The focus of that is board governance and board compliance with the applicable policies and rules. And then, of course, we're coming up on reaccreditation of affirmation. So there is kind of a bigger context that the board should consider as part of making its decision about whether or not to have an exception. And I guess, does that, I tried to lay a little context for the discussion. I'm happy to elaborate a bit more if that would be helpful. And then, of course, I'm making an assumption about the motion that I think is coming.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, so I make a motion to make an exception to Article 4, Section 2 of the election of officers, and allow nominations and election of board members to officer positions at this 2023 annual meeting without regard to whether they have demonstrated compliance with all board bylaws and policies. Then I also have a second motion. Oh, wait a minute.
So
I need a
normally
second.
we do one motion at a time.
Okay.
So now the question would be, is there a second for that motion?
Second, Luis?
I second it.
So would you like to ask if there's discussion, and then you can.
Discussion?
I have some discussion. I was just, I watched all of the last couple of years of board meetings, and I know that some of these bylaw changes were made recently, and when the vote happened, I may not be 100% correct here, but I remember that it was a 3-2 decision, as were most of the contentious board decisions last year. So since the two members who made mistakes and broke open meeting laws, since they weren't allowed to vote for these bylaws, I think that we should recognize that from this point on, good effort, goodwill is going forward, and considering both of the two are the longest on the board, I feel comfortable saying I agree with the motion.
Roll call?
Anybody? Well, is that it, or is there any
Any
discussion?
other discussion?
Let me just share with you what the monitoring report says from the HLC. So it talks about board effectiveness, and it reads, continued work on processes to improve adherence to appropriate board and state policies with a focus. So I just wanted to add, so it wasn't just about the board policies, but it's also state policies. That's from the HLC's perspective.
Chancellor, you are not a member of this board. You are our chancellor. I don't believe that your comments at this time are appropriate. It should come from one of the board members.
I have a responsibility as an officer of the college, as well as all of you swore an oath to the state of Arizona, so did I, that we would follow the state law as well as the federal law. All I'm doing is sharing with you what is in public documents. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just simply sharing with you what was communicated to the college. That is, I would be shirking my responsibility if I just did not remind all of you of that. What you decide to do with that is a board decision, not my decision.
Okay, just one more thing, and I'm trying to be courteous. Okay, again, you're not a member of this board. If you want to be on the board, then you should run for the board. And as a matter of fact, you shouldn't even be sitting up here. All the other county attorneys or all the other councils don't have that. Okay, so I'm done.
Any further discussion from board members?
So yeah, it does kind of trouble me. I mean, given the context of, and I wasn't here, so I mean, I can't relitigate everything that's happened over so I don't know as much about that, and so I mean, I'm still in the learning process. But if we're in a position where our accreditor, above everything else, is looking at whether we're following, as a board, bylaws and laws, and then like the first thing we do as a new board that's seating is say we want to make an exception to our bylaws, it just strikes me as running in the face of what the Higher Learning Commission is asking of us. And so I appreciate that the situation has been complicated over these years by a number of different factors, but it troubles me that the first thing that we would do substantively is basically make an exception to the bylaws that the HLC is asking that we follow. So it's not something I can support.
Mr. Chair, I'm in agreement with Mr. Taylor.
Mr. McLean.
Understanding that I don't have the history that some of the other board members have, I find it difficult to support a motion that's going to basically change the bylaws on the way the chair and the vice chair are being selected. And also, I would need more information to make that kind of a decision to see what kind of implications it would have with the most important thing we're facing right now is problems with our accreditation. So I will not be able to support the motion.
Any further discussion?
Are we able to speak twice? Yes. If this motion doesn't pass, I think we do need to look into this, though, in the future. I think that, board bylaws that were made in a 3-2 split need to be thought about. Bylaws, I think, should be agreed upon by all 5 of us, and I would like to see bylaws be unanimous decision. People agree, all of us agree with them.
Mr. Chair.
Sir.
Yeah, and to be clear, I have no issue at some point with looking at the bylaws again and making sure that they're fair and can be applied equally. It troubles me, what signal does it send that the first thing that we're doing as a board is to make exceptions to the bylaws that are in place, regardless of the process that was there, and what does that signal from us to the Higher Learning Commission that's holding us accountable to that. I think it sends a troubling signal to do it in the way that we're doing it. I mean, I have no issue with readdressing the bylaws and trying to make sure they're fair and equitable. I just don't think the way we're doing it right now makes sense or is going to send the right signal for the HLC.
I'd like to speak. Okay, so as was stated before, the bylaws were changed back in October. Those bylaws were put in place basically to try to silence me and Luis, Board Member Luis. They didn't expect that some of the board members would not be here. Now, the other thing is that on the first violation, we did not respond to the Attorney General's office. There was no legal guidance given to us at all or offered. So because we didn't answer, it was, it was a mistake on our part. We should have answered, and we didn't. So they found us guilty.
I believe there's a motion on the table, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's do roll call.
Mr. McLean? No. Ms. Rial?
No.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
No.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes. Just want to announce that the motion failed 3-2.
Mr. Chairman, understanding that we are already having some difficulties reaching majority decision with the group, and understanding that the chair position carries with it not only a lot of responsibility, but a tremendous investment in time, and understanding that none of us have had a conversation about who should be chair and who should be vice chair. And with that understanding, I would like to volunteer my time, my effort, to be the next chairman of this board, and therefore I nominate myself.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Well, sorry. So first, do you want to see if there's any other nominations?
Is there
Yes.
any other nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Teresa Rial to the chair.
Can I, just kind of a point of inquiry or order, are these two separate votes, one for vice chair, or is it one?
Well, no. So I think what he's asking, are there two officer positions? The answer is yes. So we're going to do the election of a chair first, and then we'll do the election of, and we have a combined position. Vice chair, secretary is one office.
So right now, there's a motion by Ms. Garcia for Teresa to be chair. Do we need a second?
So you need a second for that nomination.
I second the nomination. Is there any other others nomination?
So, sorry, a point of order again. So do we get all the way through the chair process and then we start the vice chair process, or is it like a simultaneous?
No.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, sorry.
Sorry, no, it's all right. I didn't fully appreciate the scope of your question. So the answer is we're going to finish the chair election process, and the reason for that is someone who was nominated for chair might want to serve as vice chair, and so we would complete the election of the chair office first. We'll finish that, and then we will repeat the process for vice chair. Did I clarify that now? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Call for vote?
Okay, so we have two. Do you want to see if there's any discussion about?
Any discussion?
You want to consider qualifications or why you want to be board chair?
Microphone.
Thank you for that nomination. I do feel that I've had quite a few years working at the college, and I have the time also to be the board chair, and I would appreciate being the board chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir. Yes.
am I on now? I think it's time for the governing board to have a fresh start. I don't have any experience with the college. I have extensive experience working with governing boards, training governing boards, extensive experience in education and training with open meeting law violations, other governing board policies, experience with state agencies that we'll be dealing with. I think we need a fresh set of eyes coming to the board. And I agree with Ms. Riel that we need to come together as a group. And I think I can bring to the table the open atmosphere, the cooperation, and the understanding that will move this board in a positive direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Okay, so since we have 2 candidates for board, so what I'll do is call each board member's name, and then if you would tell me which candidate you cast your vote for, we'll keep a tally and see who, if anyone, has the majority. Mr. McLean.
McLean.
Ms. Riel.
Riel.
Ms.
Riel.
Garcia. Mr. Taylor.
McLean.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Riel, yes. What's that? The result is Ms. Teresa Riel, 3 votes, and Mr. McLean, 2, and our new vote chair, Ms. Riel.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, and now we move forward with nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Board Member McLean for Vice Chair for all the reasons he articulated a moment ago.
Any other nominations?
So you need a second.
Second.
What's that? Okay, continue. Is there any other nominations?
I nominate myself.
Is there a second? I second for Ms. Garcia. Discussion? Since no discussion, let's do a roll call.
Mr. McLean.
McLean.
Ms. Riel.
McLean.
Ms. Garcia.
McLean.
Mr. Taylor.
McLean.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Garcia, since I nominated her. The result is Mr. McLean's vice chair, 341.
Thank you. After.
Now we're going to request a recess so we can,
I have 2 more items.
So my one suggestion is maybe we should do we want to have a brief recess now, and we can talk about who's going, since we now have completed the elections of officers, who's going to run the rest of the meeting. Right.
Mr. Chair, I recommend that we take a 5-minute recess and then reconvene with Ms. Rial as our chair.
Second.
unanimous? Move on. 5 minutes, recess.
Returning from our short recess, and we're moving on to item 2.2, election of Arizona Association of Community College Trustees Representatives.
I nominate myself.
Is there a second? Are there any other nominations?
Madam Chair, I nominate myself as well.
Good job.
Is there a second?
Second.
If there are no other nominations, we'll do a roll call. Oh, yes. Is there any discussion?
Okay, so is this for just one position or is it two?
So
Right.
we're going to elect two people. So the first person will be the primary representative, and then we're going to elect an alternate. So because there might be times when the primary representative cannot attend for some reason, and then we have an alternate who can attend in their stead. So there will be two votes. There'll be the representative and an alternate. So first we'll deal with the representative, and then we'll deal with the alternate.
Any other discussion? Okay, a roll call vote.
Mr. McLean,
McLean?
Ms. Rial,
McLean?
Ms. Garcia,
Myself.
Mr. Taylor,
McLean.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Ms. Garcia.
So 3 for McLean and 2 for Ms. Garcia. Nominations for the alternate.
I nominate myself.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Maria Garcia is the alternate. Thank you both for volunteering. Moving on to item 2.3, the election of advisory committee board representatives. There are 3 boards. Should we take them one at a time?
That's probably the easiest, and for clarification, so there are 2 board members who can be elected to each of these committees.
Okay.
Question, does it matter what order we take them in? Does it have to be the order that's on here?
I think the board can take them in whichever order the board pleases.
All right, well, I want to nominate myself then for the Enrollment and External Relations Advisory Committee. And this, it's literally what I've done for 25 years of my professional career, is work in external relations, community engagement, government relations. And so I'd be especially interested in being part of that committee.
Second?
Are we going to?
So you could ask for additional nominations. Like I said, there's 2 slots available, and so depending on how many nominees you get, you may or may not need more than a voice vote.
Okay, great. Is there another nomination?
I nominate Teresa. Chairperson Teresa Rell. For
Same one.
the enrollment.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for that Enrollment and External Relations Advisory Committee?
I nominate myself. I nominate myself for that position too.
I'll second that. And may I remove my name from just for time's sake?
You can certainly decline a nomination.
Thank you. I'm going to decline that nomination. Are there any other nominations? So I'm going to take the vote. Saying aye means that you would like both Luis Gonzalez and Wade McLean to be the 2 Oh, I'm sorry, Greg Taylor. Thank you, I'm sorry. For the Enrollment and External Relations Advisory Committee members. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on. Let's move up to the Finance and Audit Committee. I would like to move myself. Am I allowed to make motions as the board chair?
Yes, the board chair can make motions.
Thank you.
Second.
Are there other nominations?
Does anybody else want to serve on the Finance and Audit Committee? Then I nominate myself.
I'll second that. Any other nominations? Okay, I'll call for a vote by saying aye. You're voting for Teresa Riel and Maria Garcia to be the two Finance and Audit Committee members. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then lastly, the Human Resources Advisory Committee. Do I hear any nominations?
Board Member McLean?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Luis, are you interested?
I will. I did the last time, so I'll continue.
I will. Okay, I'm going to nominate you then to make it legal. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, moving on. Voice vote for Wade McLean and Luis Gonzalez to be the two members for the Human Resources Advisory Committee. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, moving on. We're going to skip 3 since we've already recessed. We're going to move on to number 4, public comment call to audience. And there are 3 people that have signed up to speak. There are some words that I'm supposed to read here, I believe. The Pima Community College Governing Board welcomes public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the college. Generally, the total time for public comment will be limited, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. These time limits may be modified by the board chair or the board. Individuals sharing comments are expected to communicate with decorum and respect. Individuals who engage in disorderly conduct or who use derisive or insulting language may have their time reduced or concluded by the board chair. At the conclusion of public comment, individual board members may respond to criticism made by those who address the board, may ask staff to review the matter, or may ask that a matter be put on future agenda. Members of the board, however, may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during public comment unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Finally, be advised that internal college processes are available to students and employees for communication. Our first call to the audience speaker is Michaela Hayes.
Hello. Good evening, board members, chancellors, colleagues, and guests. My name is Michaela Hayes. I'm math faculty, PCCEA president, and AERC co-chair. PCCEA is the board-recognized faculty association representing full-time faculty. AERC is the college-wide representative group charged with policies regarding working conditions and compensation. I want to take this opportunity to welcome our new members, Ms. Teresa Riel, Mr. Greg Taylor, and Mr. Wade McLean to the governing board. Thank you for stepping forward to invest your time and energy into Pima Community College. I look forward to working together. Toward the end of last semester, the college released the HLC final decision on the AERC and PCCEA complaints. PCCEA found out shortly after the release of the HLC final decision that due to a website glitch, the evidence that was supposed to accompany the AERC complaint that Faculty Senate endorsed did not go through. The HLC invited us to resubmit our complaint with this evidence. PCCEA and Senate leadership decided it would be more productive to attempt to work internally to get to the heart of the issue first. Though the response from the HLC was disappointing and PCCEA disagrees with the arguments made by the college in the posted response, we want to move forward in a constructive manner. We are committed to working with administration to improve shared governance, policies, and working conditions. The AERC met with Jeff Sylvan at the end of last semester to discuss the core of our concerns and how to best move forward. We were able to identify some sources of disconnect about the role of the AERC in meet and confer, as well as some areas for improvement with the ODR complaint and grievance process. The AERC has made progress in organizing our resolution team structure and tracking team conversations this fall. One such resolution team is looking into changes to AP 1.2501, the administrative procedure detailing meet and confer, that we hope will clear up some of the identified disconnects. Other teams are continuing the classification and compensation discussions for faculty and staff. As winter break comes to a close, I'm hopeful for a collaborative and productive semester. There are many important projects to be worked on before summer that I look forward to updating you on. I would invite the governing board to consider a town hall Q&A session to introduce yourself to the college community and hear directly from employees. It would be amazing if it were a noticed event and we could have all of you at once, or perhaps a few events with a couple board members at a time. I appreciate the governing board members listening to employee perspectives and contributions, and I look forward to working with you to strengthen Pima Community College and our effectiveness in this community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michaela. Our next speaker is Scott Stewart.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Very good. Hello, my name is Scott Stewart, 8401 East Appomattox Street, Tucson. Chair Real, members of the board, Chancellor Lambert, and guests. Having served 18 to life on this board, allow me to offer simultaneous congratulations and condolences on your recent elections. It's a lot of work where you get to make everybody unhappy to some degree. I come to you today to express my support for Chancellor Lambert, his team, and the emphasis on workforce programs that help get people well-paying jobs and help attract employers to our community. Talent at this level is rare. I know some of you want to replace the chancellor. I advise against it, but at least advise you to proceed carefully and slowly. It takes a few years for a new one to get up to speed, and there is a lot of churn when you do so. I would also like to express my support for the public being able to attend board meetings and study sessions in person. It makes communication with everyone so much easier. As always, I remain available to any of you if you want to meet to trade insights or just discuss issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. And our final speaker for call of the audience is Justin Lukowicz. And I apologize if I didn't pronounce your last name correctly.
It was great. It was great. My name is Justin Lukasevich. I'm the CEO with Greater Tucson Leadership. Chair Real, board members, chancellor, and guests. I'm excited to be here tonight to represent Greater Tucson Leadership. Our goal in the community, our mission is to inspire, develop, and promote leadership that impacts the Greater Tucson the Greater Tucson region. I'm here tonight with an exciting announcement. We manage the Community Impact Awards, which is in its 70th year. Within those awards, we recognize the Man, the Woman of the Year, the Founders Award, and the GTL Alumni Excellence. I'm here tonight to announce and let you all know that Chancellor Lee Lambert has been selected as the Man of the Year, and we're excited to recognize him on April 21st at Casino del Sol at our 70th Annual Community Impact Awards. We really are honored to have such a member of our community that really works to build education and pathways, new pathways for students to gain education, leadership, and work in our community and really encourage our workforce development. Mr. Lambert has been a leader here at Pima Community College and has helped grow our community college into a national recognition level. So we're really proud to be honoring him this year as the Tucson Man of the Year. Congratulations to Lee Lambert, and thank you for having me here to speak today.
Thank you. And I think the whole board will join me in saying congratulations. That's quite an honor, and you honor the college when you do great things for all of our students, so thank you.
Congratulations.
Moving on to section 4.3, are there any board member comments? I'd like to start off saying that I would like to put BP 1.25, the bit that Michaela Hayes was talking about. I'd like to have that on our next board meeting agenda.
So just as a clarification about order, so normally board remarks are related to summaries of recent college-related activities. We do have a whole separate agenda item just for future agenda items, so just so board members can think about how you want to allocate your time.
Madam Chair? Am I on? I had the opportunity to be in the Chancellor's office when Greater Tucson Leadership came in and presented the award, and it was very moving. But not to detract from the award that the Chancellor received, anytime a CEO, a leader of an organization receives an award of this type, it also validates the quality of the organization. And I think just as much as Mr. Lambert deserves this award, we ought to celebrate the accomplishments of Pima Community College faculty, staff, and its students. Yet, still well-deserved on the leadership of the organization, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I can join that as well. Congratulations, Chancellor, and all your efforts and the efforts of the college and the success that you've had, and being recognized in this manner is an honor and achievement for sure. And also, being one of the newly elected folks up here, I just want to thank, everybody at the college and at the foundation that have been part of our ongoing orientation and tours, and I know I still have plenty to learn. I don't have as much experience on the college as our new chairperson does to rely on, or even experience in higher ed as my other new board member does. So I know I have a lot to learn, but I appreciate everybody's efforts to educate me and keep me in the loop, and I certainly encourage everyone up here and everyone at the college to continue to do that. We'll continue to learn, and I'm looking forward to serving on this board, and hopefully we can move together productively and as a cohesive whole.
And as another new board member, I'd just like to say it's wonderful to be back at Pima Community College. I've missed my colleagues and coworkers, and it's nice to be back here sitting on this side of the bench from this time.
Well, I'd like to congratulate our new board members, and I too am looking forward to working with everyone and learning from each other. So hopefully this is going to be a heck of a better year. Thank you.
I also just want to make some comments in reference to thanking the people, especially our faculty and staff at Pima College. They will begin again another new year. And Happy New Year's to the community of Pima Community College. One of the things that I saw and heard about this weekend is the faculty and staff downtown campus and having helping out the community, the students, reference to registration, financial aid, and the whole gamut of services out there. I think it's ideal. In fact, I had one of my grandkids attend that event as well too. So I'm glad that we can support, but also really provide those services to the community. I think it's great, but I also want to acknowledge and recognize the new Mr. Taylor and Ms. Real that also were elected by the community. I do thank you, the community that did well, and also the appointment of Mr. McLean in reference to joining the group, and we hope to do a very positive and clear movement this coming year. I think there's a lot of stuff to do, but more important, a lot of work to do in order for us to really provide the services to the community and all students as well, too, at all levels. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 4.4, Pima's mission moment. Okay, thank you, Chancellor. Will you introduce that?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. It's my honor to introduce tonight's mission movement. And I just give you a context for this for a moment. We really wanted to take an opportunity to really highlight some of the excellent programming that's going on at the college. So we've identified, borrowing from the United Way, this notion of the mission moment. So that's why it's here. And I'll just reiterate our mission statement: empower every learner, every day for every goal, and this mission moment is to showcase that. So with that, I'd like to ask our Dean, Emily Halverson, to join us to introduce this piece. But before I have Dean Halverson speak, I just want to call your attention to when a college is doing excellent work, you start to see a number of excellent individuals rise to the top. And Emily Halverson is no exception to that. She has been identified as one of 6 fellows nationwide through the President's Community College STEM Initiative. And so I just want to say congratulations to you, Dean Halverson, for the great work you're doing in leading the college's STEM efforts and for introducing this exciting program that we have.
Thank you for that introduction, Chancellor. Good evening, distinguished board, Chancellor, colleagues, guests. I'm Emily Halverson-Ott, Dean of Sciences here at Pima, and I have the distinct pleasure of giving tonight's mission moment regarding our Pima STEM Bridge Grant. This particular grant helps to bridge students from Pima to the University of Arizona. It's an NSF grant, or a National Science Foundation grant, and this is actually one of 3 NSF grants that we have here at Pima. And this particular grant is an STEM grant. The S before STEM stands for scholarship. And so this particular grant is almost $5 million between Pima and the University of Arizona, and the majority of that money goes to student scholarship, as well as supporting them in the bridge to the University of Arizona. So I'm going to turn it over to Aglian Nieto, who is our Pima program, or Pima STEM Bridge Program Manager.
Good evening, everybody. As you will see on the screen, I will be sharing a presentation to briefly share about our program. So good evening, Chair, Governing Board members, Chancellor Lambert, and faculty, staff, students, and of course guests. I'm excited to be part of this part of the presentation, share a little bit about our program. As our Dean shared, it is the Pima UAC STEM Bridge program funded by the National Science Foundation. My name is Aglaia Nieto, and I am the proud manager of this program and the students here that you see on the screen. If you have any questions, I've noted my email address on there for you. So I want to tell you in the next slide, our motivation for this program was to increase diversity, access, and success in STEM. And we hope to do so by increasing the number of Pima College STEM students transferring into and completing the degree at a University of Arizona. The program seeks to grow and strengthen students' sense of belonging in STEM, grow and strengthen their STEM community, as well as their STEM experiences. In order to do so, the program tackles challenging barriers by bridging our faculty and student cultures through culturally responsive support of STEM students. And our project goal is to address the need of participants at PCC planning to pursue STEM and transitioning into STEM majors at U of A. We implement programs to deepen their knowledge of the exposure to STEM culture and careers, raise their awareness of what it takes to transition successfully into U of A, and enhance their readiness to succeed academically. As our dean shared, our story began in 2018 when she worked collaboratively with U of A leaders to successfully earn this 5-year grant that began in 2019. The grant total for this was $4.8 million that we share with them. at U of A, and we will be serving a total of 90 students. All of them are currently being served, and the program will run through 2025. Of the 3 cohorts, our first consists of 29 students who are currently in their 4th semester at U of A. Our second cohort consists of 28 students that are in their 2nd semester at U of A. And we have just completed recruitment for our 33 students that are in their second year at Pima and will be transferring to U of A in the fall. We have also had the opportunity to work very closely with our faculty mentors, both from Pima and U of A, to offer training that will help them help our students, as well as 9 of the peer mentors that have worked for our program. The effort is strategic and it's holistic, and it includes faculty mentoring. Our students are assigned for the duration of 2 years, 1 at Pima, 1 at U of a faculty mentor from Pima, as well as a faculty mentor from U of A. Not only are they receiving the mentoring, but the faculty mentors are receiving the training to ensure that our students are empowered, that they are working hard towards their STEM goals, and helping ensure that they are successful there. Our students also receive or are assigned a peer mentor who works closely with them throughout those 2 years, their final year at Pima before transitioning into U of A, and their first year at U of A. These students are themselves transfers from Pima and excellent role models that are succeeding in their STEM coursework at U of A with experiences that our students are able to share and understand and feel part of U of A as they transition even before they arrive. A big part of our program also includes a scholarship, which is $8,000 at Pima Community College, followed by 5 semesters of $5,000 at U of A. So the grand total is sufficient to make a little bit of a dent in their needs, and we supplement that by helping them connect to internship or research opportunities and or additional scholarships that will help them address their financial academic expenses. The students also receive individual and advising support, both through their faculty mentors, their peer mentors, myself, staff, both at Pima and at U of A, that are all working closely and intently to ensure that all of their different needs are addressed as individualized as possible. In addition to that, as my boss would call it, a wraparound service, is we have our STEM transfer course where our students are introduced to all of the different scenarios that they will be experiencing as they transition. And so they have a period of 1 year while at Pima and before transferring to begin to build those communities, those connecting to those resources, accessing different type of assistance that will help them with that. And as they transition into U of A, we also connect them with research exploration. That begins very early on. For example, we have had our students connect with industry leaders that serve as mentors if and when our students connect with them. For example, from Raytheon, Leonardo Electronics, SMB Offshore off of Houston, Vitus, which is a chemical company, Northern Capital Group, and Logic Boards, all STEM related, and our students are hearing about their experiences, how some of these leaders in the industry are very much like them and have related experiences. They visit with them, they talk about what they need to be focusing on now and connecting them to those opportunities those industries offer. The next section is I want to allow you a couple of seconds to read the impact that our program has in our own students' perspective. We've listed a couple of them here, and in the images you see them connecting with their faculty mentors, with each other in our beautiful STEM labs, having that experience being very individualized, personalized, and something that the students, I feel, are experiencing in a very intentional way with us. And so the next part is I will be sharing some videos with you. And so I'll quiet for a couple of seconds so you can read these. So our scholars perspective, I'd like to introduce you to one of our students. Her name is Genesis. She is a computer major. I will be playing the video. Following that, I will play Matthew Rios, and this is in their own words, and they just want to share a little bit of insight on our program.
Hi, my name is Genesis Benedict. I am an Afro-Latina of Honduran and Jamaican descent. So growing up, I had never considered pursuing a career in STEM because I just assumed that there was no place for people who looked like me or came from the same background as I did. But that eventually changed when I decided to attend Pima Community College. In the beginning of my college journey there, imposter syndrome really did get the best of me. I didn't think it was possible for someone like me to become a professional in STEM. But that changed when I received my acceptance to the Pima UAZ STEM Bridge program. The Pima UAZ STEM Bridge program connected me with a network of like-minded community college students who are just as passionate about research as much as I am. The peer mentors were one of the most impactful resources that really helped me transition from Pima Community College to the University of Arizona. I was actually matched with a peer mentor there that studied the same major that I was interested in, so she was able to help me prepare for the first day of classes. Not only did the STEM Bridge program provide me with guidance and support as I transferred to the university, but I also gained a sense of community just by being around the other STEM Bridge scholars within my cohort. So all of the opportunities and services offered within the program actually helped me reduce the feeling of imposter syndrome. With the program resources, I had the opportunity to transfer to the University of Arizona to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science with a minor in Professional and Technical Writing. Now that I have the resources to pursue and fund my higher education at the University of Arizona as an undergraduate student, I can focus on applying to graduate school. And there I was specialized in human-computer interaction and user experience. Every day at the University of Arizona, I am reminded about how grateful I am to be a Pima UAZ STEM Bridge Scholar and all of the wonderful resources that has helped me mold into the well-rounded STEM student that I am today and am continuing to grow into. Thank you for allowing me to share my experience, and thank you to Pima UAZ STEM Bridge Program and all of its coordinators.
So thank you to Genesis for sharing that with us. I apologize the video was not in your screen immediately. The next one I want to share is our current cohort 3 student, Matthew Rios.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Rios, and the positives that this program have had on my life they're innumerable. And it's just a program that just keeps giving. I'm doing better than I ever have been in school. Definitely a lot less stress as far as where my studies are concerned. I've been able to focus really hard on the material and really feel like I'm getting this and I'm taking it along with me and ready for the next step. My peer mentors, my faculty mentors, That'd be Tekla Dominguez, Dr. Suzanne Duan, and Dr. Berman. They've been incredible, and they've provided a lot of cool resources for me. They lend an ear. I can reach out to them. They're very good at like following up and getting me information that I've asked for, and it's just really, you can't really ask for more. It really is. It's the program that I dreamed of, and I didn't even know it existed. And I see myself like people have asked me like what is provided, and I'm already considering graduate school because this is really helping me. I think this is really going to help me with. It is helping me a lot with my undergrad and my family, and just it's provided a financial buoy, and also just that support system really kind of helping me along. The hard stuff hasn't even really been hard, it's been challenging, but knowing that I have that support system and the time and people who are actually invested in my success it's incredible. Actually, some very tangible positives, net positives that I've gotten from it are I was offered an internship the other day by my ethical hacking instructor. And that only came about because I had to talk to him about my grades for the grade summary. And I don't know if that would have happened otherwise. And that's just, I could go on and on. It's been great. And I'm looking forward to next semester already. Like, going to finish this one strong, of course, but next one's going to be really hard, but I'm ready. I feel I'm ready. And I know I have like a strong, like a team of rock stars that are going to be there to help me. So thank you all. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm definitely not squandering it. And I don't know. Just thank you. The program is incredible. Like I'm a lucky person. I'm very lucky, very fortunate.
So I believe that you can see that every learner, every day, for every goal is one of the goals of our program. I thank you for your attention and your continued support in helping us help all of our students reach their full potential.
So I will just conclude with, again, thank you for this opportunity and to ask if anyone has any questions.
No questions, but it sounds like an amazing program. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. It is a phenomenal program. It is something that is a passion project of mine. And every time I hear the students speak, I get a little choked up at how much we're impacting them in a positive way.
Great, thank you both so much. And we really appreciated hearing from the students too. That was really, really touching. Thanks so much. Okay, now we'll move on to section number 5, the reports. And if we just go in order, the first report, academics, from Dr. Dolores Duran-Cerda.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Real. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes? Okay, excellent. Let me just set this up very quickly. Okay. So good evening, Board Chair Real, members of the board, Chancellor Lambert, colleagues and guests. Happy New Year to all of you. And I'd like to welcome the new board members and welcome back our existing board members. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. So I'm going to be giving you an update on, this is actually the second update I've given to the board regarding Chancellor's goals and the academics update. The Chancellor's goals right now are at the midpoint of the year, and academic affairs has made significant progress in our goals. And as you know, our commitment is to student excellence through an equity lens, and by that, I mean that we are preparing all students across all demographics. And we're also increasing the relevance to meeting the evolving needs of our learners in our community and across the country too. Academic affairs is focused on the culture of continuous quality improvement, and we're focused on instructional technology as well as pedagogy, various modalities, teaching and learning, so we can equip our learners for the skills of knowledge and abilities that are needed in the 21st century globalized economy. And as we all know, we want to prepare students so there is social and economic mobility. So this is an overview of the Chancellor's goals regarding academics. So you can take a look at that. And I know you also received my executive summary that goes into detail. Tonight, I would like to go into depth with 3 of the goals, sub-goals, and they are sub-goal 1, 5, and 6. And just to let you know that I've been holding individual meetings with the sub-goal owners. And this is a regular basis so we can enhance the collaboration and make sure that they have the supports that they need, as well as any other resources or communications that we need to clarify. It also helps us identify the opportunities and gaps that we need to address as we follow this process. So for the first goal, general education and the AJAC reimagining, before I go a little more into it, I wanted to provide some context, especially for our new board members. The Gen Ed refresh is actually the result of an A-board decision, and that's the Arizona Board of Regents. So in February of 2021, the A-board updated their policy regarding Gen Ed and their philosophy for general education. So they are saying now in their policy that they want to prepare students to pursue careers or advanced study and take their place in the Republic and the world, and also to provide a foundational cognitive and behavioral skills necessary to adapt quickly to change. And that, of course, impacts our community colleges and the AJAC. So the AJAC is being reimagined as well. So, and that is to make sure that our students understand why they're taking general education and how it will benefit them in the future. So as you see here, we're also working with, if you look at the second bullet, Pima Community College has been selected to participate in the AAC&U 2023 Institute on e-portfolios. And this is going to really enable our learners to electronically collect their work over time and integrate what they've been learning inside and outside of the classroom and share it with their instructors, advisors, as well as potential employers. This is a high impact practice, the e-portfolios, and it's a strategy that they offer to enhance learning success and career development. So we're very excited that we're participating in this. Also, Academic Affairs and Workforce have been collaborating with Dean Michael Parker and Ian Rourke, our Vice Chancellor for Workforce Development, in this innovation to extend work-based learning to all of our learners. And that follows one of the new AJAC guidelines, which is Skills for Productive Life category. We're also exploring internship courses for our learners to participate in that as well and apply the skills that they acquire in the general education coursework. And I did want to, before I go on, let you know that the leads for this particular sub-goal are Dr. Michael Parker and Dr. Josie Milligan, both our deans. Then I'll go to the next one, and this is our sub-goal 5, which is digital literacy and fluency task force. The leads are Deans Jim Craig and Jeff Teese, and also our Vice Chancellor for Academic Excellence, Morgan Phillips, has been helping out with this process as well. So you've heard the Chancellor and many of us at the college talk about moving at the speed of Industry 4.0 and the 4 superpowers, such as automation, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and mobile technology. So we want to make sure that our learners are prepared and have the skills and are equipped to use those tools, so when they graduate and they get a job, they are part of that globalization and the fast-changing labor market. This is being coordinated very closely with the Gen Ed redesign as well. We're addressing the skills gap in technology to expand access and to increase student success. And this was very evident during the pandemic when we went virtual and online instruction, where there were gaps. We already knew, but this was highlighted, and so we really want to help our learners of all ages so they are prepared with the tools that they need as they graduate and fulfill their goals. Also, we're examining college-wide needs and opportunities, and faculty will have opportunities to engage in these technologies for valuable input and feedback. And as you can see, I've included the timeline and next steps for this one. And the last one I wanted to briefly share with you is the HLC assurance argument, and you're going to be hearing more from Wendy Weeks, who is our accreditation liaison officer, and she is leading this effort as well as the criterion leads, which are it's an outstanding group of individuals at the college who are helping lead this. And as you can see, the purpose of this is to support and monitor preparation for the assurance argument. We did have a call out for writers. We probably should call them editors more than writers, because the criterion leads are actually writing the document, but we need editors to help us with the fluidity and making sure that we have a cohesive and unified voice. And we've initiated an executive HLC steering committee that also provides leadership and guidance for quality improvement and making key decisions to cover various responsibilities and functions. There have been assurance argument convenings with the leads since July, I believe, and you can see the next steps, and I won't go any further because I know Wendy Weeks will be sharing a little bit more later with other administrative reports. And with that, I will stop there and see if there are any questions.
I have a question, and forgive me if others know the answer to this already. I said I'm still sort of learning in this process, but you know, one of the things and maybe it's just because I'm only seeing part of the picture here and not the whole thing, but like I'm looking for like measurable outcomes associated with each one of these things. So like, for example, the number 5 that was presented around creating the task force, which is great. I mean, I have nothing against creating a task force, but presumably that task force exists to move the needle on digital fluency and literacy. So like, is the task force then deciding how that's going to be measured? And is there a goal about what percentage it might increase over what period of time? And just, again, maybe it's just me, but I would love that context, especially since I'm new as we're going forward, about like, what are the metrics related to each one of these things? How are they being measured, and what's the goal in terms of moving the needle?
That's an excellent question, Board Member Taylor. So what we have also is our dashboards for each of these chancellor's goals, and the chancellor will be sharing with you and the entire board the status, and we have multiple spreadsheets that include everything that you mentioned, the KPIs, and how we're measuring, what we're measuring as we go along through the process. So this is the digital task force, literacy task force is new, but once it's decided as to the recommendations, it's going to be decided what or how are we going to measure our students as they achieve digital literacy and fluency. But I don't know, Chancellor Lambert, if you'd like to elaborate on the dashboards that you'll be sharing periodically with the board members.
Dolores?
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, in the previous times, whenever they did measurements, and you talk about the dashboard, you know, it's not specific enough. For example, Board Member Taylor here was asking about how we're going to complete these gaps. So you know, in my view, I would like to see, okay, we contact 100 people took classes. This is a level that they're at. This is what they got from it. Those things have failed in the past. So I'm hoping that we're going to get better data when it comes to measuring.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia, for your feedback, and the entire board too. I've invited some of the sub-goal owners. So Jim Craig is here, and I don't know if Jeff Teese is here, but they are the ones leading the sub-goal, and they're taking into account with your feedback and understood about being specific with measurable outcomes and providing updates to the board as to how we're doing and making sure that we are progressing in moving the needle. As I said, with the pandemic, we saw there was a tremendous gap, and technology is changing. I mean, medical technology, I understand the chancellor's mentioned, and through articles and books that we've read, in 74 days, it changes. So we have to be constantly upskilling and reskilling ourselves as well as our students. So thank you for that feedback, and we will make sure that with all of our dashboards for the chancellor's goals, not just only in academics, but with the others, that we provide sufficient information to show and prove that we're moving the needle.
Yeah, Chancellor, I don't know if there was anything you wanted to add on the dashboards, but I mean, I would love to, maybe there's some reason why they're separated, but it would be wonderful to integrate that in with these presentations so that we can sort of see it side by side, so we can get all the wonderful work that, you know, you and your team are doing, and then can see what the measurable outcomes are that are associated with each one of those. It would be helpful for me, just so I can keep in mind like what needle are we looking to move for each one of these things. But if there's anything else you wanted to add on the dashboards, please feel free.
I think there's, you know, different levels to all of this work. So like this digital literacy piece, we have to first establish the baseline, which we've not fully done yet. So we're still in this process of trying to figure out what we want to focus on in terms of digital literacy. So that work is underway. Once we better understand the problem we're trying to solve, then we can start to set the actual KPIs and the measurements that go along with that. You'll see in some other areas we already have that in place. And so, but that's a different facet of what the work they've been doing on the academic side. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Dolores.
Thank you.
The next report is from Dave B., and I guess he has two in a row, Operations College-wide and the financial report for the fiscal year.
Good evening, Chairperson Real, members of the board, Chancellor member, colleagues and guests. I do have two in a row. They're quite different, although I guess there's some intersecting elements to them. The first one I will be following up just in the order that Dolores did hers, is an update on the Chancellor goals for the areas that I am overseeing from an executive level, which is the operational piece. Share screen with you. Okay. Not the one I'm looking to do first, but maybe I will do that one first, since that's the one that popped up. Let me go ahead and start with this one, and I'll go back to the goal update after. So it is my pleasure tonight to give the board a summary of the fiscal year results as published in the annual financial report that was sent out by the Auditor General's office in late December. This is the culmination of a lot of work between the finance office throughout the district and then the Auditor General's office works for months, sampling different pieces of information, transactions, verifying and validating the information provided and summarized in our financial report. The quick and dirty, it's sent out directly to the board members. If the new board members haven't yet received it, we will get you a paper copy, and it is linked on the website, and we'll provide information to you related to that. This is what the cover looks like of the financial report this year. And then the key information is that's related to the financial report. The thing that you're always going to look for when you issue an audited report is, did you get a clean audit? And so I grabbed the screenshot of the key statement that the Auditor General's Office includes in our audit, which is the part that's highlighted there or squared in our opinion based on our audit and the report of other auditors. Financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the activities and component unit of the college. Paraphrased it a little bit. That is the end-all be-all. That essentially is that we received a clean audit. In terms of the actual performance, it was a positive, a generally positive result for the year. Starting with the operating revenues and how those came together for the year. We do side-by-side, year-over-year comparisons just to give some context in terms of the performance of the college. Overall, our operating revenues increased a little bit year-over-year. A slight increase in tuition and fees, tuition increase, and slight enrollment. I think very, very slight enrollment increases, but mostly a tuition increase would be the reason for that. The bigger results are increases in property taxes. That's totally planned and expected. The increase in state appropriations is that result of Proposition 209 revenue. That's the smart and safe legalizing marijuana revenues that colleges receives a share of the proceeds from that legalized marijuana sales now. The other increases, the most significant one is the increase in federal grants, and that's one of the thematic areas in the results of the financial report this year is significant increases in federal aid coming through the HERF funds, the Higher Education Relief Act funds, and also expenses that are related to that. So the biggest change year over year is the big increase in funds from the federal government to support the college during the pandemic and as a result of the pandemic, and then the expenses associated with that. I will take a quick note. Investment income shows as a negative here. That's as a result of interest rate increases. Our investments are completely in bond and fixed instruments. As a result of that, when interest rates go up, there is an unrealized decrease in those assets. It's not a loss in actual money. It's a decrease in the value of the investments. So we are not actually losing money, but according to accounting standards, we have to show it this way. That is to say, the reason for that is to say, if we sold those bonds, if we were in a bind and we had to sell our investments, we would take a little bit of a loss on those. That isn't what we're doing. We're playing those out as those investment vehicles mature. That is, they run out, they finish up the duration of the bond. We then reinvest them, and then the added benefit, and this is what we'll be talking about in the budget cycle, is that now that interest rates are up, our returns from our yields that we get from the bonds are actually going up now. So we mature off older, lower interest vehicles, and then reinvest the money that we have available then into higher interest generating vehicles. We talk with this regularly about the Finance and Audit Committee, and so Chairperson Real, you'll be hearing more and more about investments, and as well as some more detail related to the audit through that group. In terms of expenses and changes year over year, again, the biggest related changes to this were as a result of the increased funding that we got to support COVID-related response. Reinvesting in information technology resources was one of the big things. We also shored up some of the safety and security related elements around the college, putting up sneeze guard type device, walls and things like that. And other COVID-related personal safety type expenses. But a lot of the expense investment that we did, we were able to use the federal money to really shore up and improve our IT infrastructure, make things, the Wi-Fi at the campuses, not only reach a broader range of spaces at the campuses, but run at a much faster rate. So we definitely took advantage of the federal money to ensure or to improve and shore up our information technology infrastructure. The other thing that you'll see with our financial statements is that as we're building the buildings, particularly through the revenue bonds, but then coming next year and thereafter, the health-related improvements that we're doing, there's a lot more expenses now coming into line. So we received the revenues for revenue bonds a number of years ago, and then it takes time to then spend that money down. So then you see expenses going up in contract services and operations and so forth. Overall, total expenses went up a fair amount year over year. Again, that is mostly related to the increased revenues we received temporarily, the one-time funds essentially from the federal government. You can also see a big additional share went to dispersing money directly to students. And looking at the operating expenses by type, there's the operating quick wheel that I'm in. Operating expenses by type, the employee compensation and benefits went up. Those are due to planned salary increases that were budgeted that year. And then contractual services, supplies, materials, those are the things I talked about, were mostly increases in our investment related to information technology systems and licenses. The increase in student financial aid. So those are the big increases, again, mostly related to how we spend the federal aid. Overall, looking at the net position, the operating revenues, as I mentioned, went up a little bit. Operating expenses went up quite a bit, again, because of primarily one-time expenses. And those were offset by one-time increases in net non-operating revenues. Overall, it was a positive result. There was an increase in net position of $28 million. That is a very positive result, particularly given the challenges that we've been going through as a college. In terms of our net position, this is the one thing that you want to look at more on an annual basis. What does our snapshot look like? And then looking longitudinally, how are things looking in terms of our overall net position? Those are our assets, how we have money invested, either whether we have it invested in cash equivalents, short-term, long-term investments, what kind of liabilities we have on the books as well. And then sort of what the overall position is in terms of how much you have invested in your capital plant, and then how much money you have also that's available in either unrestricted or restricted assets. So overall, the picture is positive. The amount invested in capital assets went up about $6 million. That's net of debt and depreciation. That's because we're adding new buildings, and the new buildings are newer. We're adding new equipment, so that's where that number increases. Increase overall in our restricted net position, and then also an increase in our unrestricted net position. So we're in a very positive place overall. Total net position is about $207 million. And then just to quickly summarize all of what I just said, we received an unmodified opinion from the Auditor General's office. So that is what we're looking for, is a clean audit. One note, and I talked in more detail with the Finance Audit Committee about this issue, GASB 87 was implemented this year, which is a government accounting standards board, has different rules that you follow in terms of how you report different elements of the finances and the assets, that sort of thing. This GASB 87 is related to leases. There are 4 leases that are that we are actually chose to retain reporting to pre-GASB 87 standards. All other leases follow GASB 87. There are 4 leases that are operational equipment leases, and we chose to continue using the pre-GASB 87 standards for those items. So they are reflected in the annual financial reports. It does not hide any liabilities or anything like that. They're all shown. It's just they're not shown according to the new standards, and that's because of the complexity of taking these leases, which is capitalized equipment, but it's multiple pieces of equipment. The complexity of having to restate all of these different pieces of equipment, some of which are capitalizable and some of which are not, restating those according to the new standards would have been overly difficult to do, would have been likely to result in errors. And we got firm determination that these are immaterial to these financial statements. We're going to be working on those leases this year. We have 4 remaining leases that each year they will, and so we use these to purchase capital equipment and lease purchase them essentially. We'll be looking at the terms of those leases, and we may actually make the recommendation to purchase them outright, to buy out those leases. So we'll have more conversations with the board about that. It's worth saying because I just want to say that it is something that is not according to the GASB 87 standards. It is an immaterial in terms of the financial statements. And I talked at greater length with the Finance Audit Committee about that at the most recent meeting. Lastly, and I said this already, but financial statements indicate strong financial position, increases in expenditures that were related to planned personnel salary increases and pandemic-related expenses for facilities, and then the different grants related to that. And the last thing I want to add, and this isn't in the materials that we gave you, but I added this to the presentation tonight. This shows the reserves ratio. So there's a board policy that talks about our reserves and how our reserves, we target to have a certain amount of reserves on hand, and any amount above that target is open to capital reinvestment. And so what this shows is the growth in our reserves over the last number of years. And then this is the target threshold, that's the number that, according to that board policy, we have to maintain reserves above that. If we dip down below that, we have to have a plan that we discuss with the board. So it's not that we can't dip below that. It just means that we have to have a conversation with the board on what our plan is to get back up to that threshold. It's a very conservative and healthy threshold. It ensures that the college is in a very strong financial position, but it also gives us a target for when we can use some of the reserves, some of the investments that we have on hand to reinvest in the capital. And that's what the one commitment that we have for that right now is to improve to renovate the health programs at West Campus, and that project is underway. This Centers of Excellence for Health. Anyway, with that, I do want to say give a great deal of gratitude to the folks listed here. These are the folks who actually work on the audit throughout the process. They have been working without a director, someone who took a job at another institution recently, and just did a smashingly amazing job keeping the audit going and ensuring that we were able to finish it according to our standard timeline, which is to get it published before the end of the calendar year. So I want to really give a great deal of gratitude and thanks to those folks for the work they did, especially with implementing the new GASB standards, which were very onerous to take on. All right, with that, I'll ask if the board has any questions related to that presentation.
I have 2 questions. Well, first of all, I guess I should join you in thanking Brenda and Marissa, Melissa, Tim, Steve, and Bernard, because that stuff makes my head spin. So the fact that they want to do that and are good at it is fantastic. But I had 2 questions from the revenue slide, and if it makes more sense for you to answer them in the study session in February, that's fine. But my 2 questions, because maybe it's a more in-depth answer than I think, but my 2 questions is I'd be curious to know, of that $77.8 million in federal dollars, you said a lot of it came, like how much of that is one-time COVID money that's going to disappear, and how much of it is money you think is going to sustain? So that's the first question. And then the second question is, I mean, I like that the state appropriations went up by 319%, that's great, but I'm curious to know, like, let's say we were Coconino Community College or Arizona Western College, and we were actually getting the per student allocation from the state that at least I, for one, believe we should be. What is that dollar value? Like, what should that dollar value be if we were actually getting the state appropriation that I'll use the word should be, even though I know that's not my decision, it's the legislature's decision, but that we should be getting? And again, you can answer that when we meet in February. That's fine if you don't have those numbers in front of you.
I can give you rough approximations, and then they are great conversations that we'll continue to have. We also, with the new board members, will be having orientations, and I'll be able to go through this information with you all at that point. And that'll give you the opportunity to sort of, give you the foundational information that you need, and then also for you guys to ask questions as they come up. But to answer the questions, typically in a given year, so the one time is around 40 to 50 million, roughly. I'm not going to give you an exact number, but it's in that neighborhood. We do get the federal grants that we typically get go directly to students, so that's just a wash. It's just a flow through directly to students. And then whatever federal grants that we get, so Title V, Title III grants that have specific purposes. It isn't something that we use to offset our operational expenses in any way. They have obligations that come along with them. So the one-time funds, the fact that we were able to use some of those funds to really shore up our infrastructure was a one-time benefit and not something that we really will be planning on. But it also isn't something that we became reliant on operation. So that's the first question. The second one, in terms of state appropriations, I think the best way to answer the question is prior to when they started the cuts in 2008. So when the fiscal crisis happened, that's when they started reducing the college's budget appropriations. We used to receive routinely about $23 million. And then when, instead of comparing it to the number that you mentioned, the $9 million, again, a lot of that is sales tax, legalized marijuana sales tax related. About $2 to $3 million of that is actually coming from the state. So it went from $23 million down to about $3. That's probably the best piece of information for you to sort of get in your head. What is it really mean? For us to get that kind of money back would be fantastic. It would also, it's going to be a tough lift, and we'll have more conversations about legislative challenges and the budget going forward. But that's the kind of loss that we experienced between 2008 and 2000.
So just to confirm that I understood you correctly, so it's like a $20 million gap is what you said between 23 and 3. Okay, just wanted to make sure I heard you right.
Yeah, you did a great job of reading through my gobbledygook. Yes. Okay, any other questions related to the financials? All right, and by the way, the other thing that happens for the new board members, so finance and audit, we have the auditors come into that committee to both discuss how the audit went. We also have an executive session where staff are excused from that discussion, so the board members, the members of that committee can actually have a conversation with the auditors to discuss, how did the audit go, that sort of thing, and not have any concern that staff are trying to are influencing it or anyway. It's a Sarbanes-Oxley best practice type approach, and that will be happening soon. In addition to that, the auditor will be coming to the regular board meeting. That is something that is statutory now for the auditors to present to the board as a whole. So in one of your upcoming meetings, we'll be scheduling that. Okay. Well, let me share my screen now. I do have the other one up. Okay, so as Dr. Duran-Cerda was mentioning, we each of the executive vice chancellors, we each have assigned areas of the chancellor's goals. Mine are on the operational side, not totally surprising. Just a quick summary of the things that we're working on and give some highlights. We did provide you all with an executive summary that gets into a little more detail than I'll do tonight, but I'll just highlight what the general topics are of the areas. The first one is to develop a 3-year budget plan that is looking at the college now with the enrollment levels where we're at and having a realistic, sustainable budget and going forward and developing, sort of recalibrating the institution to that. We had a good study session with the board in December, and then we have study sessions already in the spring scheduled to talk about that with the board. That includes things like staffing ratios, other metrics that we use to sort of ensure that we have good stewardship of the college's resources. The other piece to that, and this folds into the second item, which is the new overhaul of our class comp structure that we rolled out in July has an ongoing obligation to that. So we have to fold that into the budget because as it's based on ensuring that people are compensated according to their market value for the jobs that they perform and the experience they have in that job, that as they get a year of experience at the college, that they move up in their value in terms of comparisons to the market. So that has an ongoing obligation. We also are working on other mechanisms for compensation, including some concepts related to merit-based pay. So moving into the second item, so first part of that, the budget part, is to fold that into an ongoing budget plan, making sure that we can sustain the increased costs associated with that with revenues and other approaches, whether it's reductions, other kinds of reductions in order to ensure that we're able to provide the compensation increases that are built into this, or increased revenues. And we'll talk with the board. That's what the budget development is going to be all about with the board. In terms of an update on the class comp study, we are still finishing up the appeals process. We finished up about 282 of the 350, roughly 350 appeals that we received. So we're almost done there. It's taken a while because some of them are more complicated in terms of they involve multiple positions, and making sure the job descriptions for multiple positions are aligned and that sort of thing, and then reviewing them versus market data and so forth. We also have already started our conversations with AERC groups, both on the faculty and staff side, to help them prioritize compensation. What are their compensation-related priorities for the upcoming year? And to have that, start having that conversation about what kind of merit-based pay or performance-based pay structures could work at the college. It's a very difficult proposition with the college's structure and with what kinds of performance-based structures that would be objective enough that wouldn't trigger all kinds of other concerns. So we're working with those groups and having conversations with them about what kinds of ideas might work, whether it's something like a college-wide type. If the college meets certain performance objectives, then everyone at the college receives a merit-based pay structure of some sort, something like that. And we'll talk more with the board as we go through the spring about those kinds of conversations. Moving down to the key performance indicators. The STAR unit, the strategic planning and data group, is working with different areas to help them identify key performance indicators within their areas. So they're focusing right now on academic, student affairs, and the campus vice presidents this year. One thing that they have done already that I think is going to make a pretty good improvement for the college is there's now a structure for recommendations that high-level recommendations of changes that will indicate both the data that's being used in the decision-making, but also what constituent groups were included in the conversations and involved in the discussions leading into the recommended change. So that's already gone out through ELT, and we're starting to use that new format now. The next one down is really focusing on college committees and creating an archive for those college committees where they can, the folks who are working on those committees know that the work that went into the committees and the recommendations that come out of it are lasting and don't just disappear to the sands of time, so to speak. So they're working on that project and identifying the best possible mechanism for that. And then the last one is related to technology and ensuring that the college's technology is meeting the needs of the college. There are a couple of key elements to this right now is really having the IT group work directly with academics to try and identify different technologies that can be integrated within the curriculum, virtual reality opportunities, those kinds of things. Augmented reality, those kinds of things that will facilitate the educational experience for the students. So we were working on getting a demo day with different technologies that are out and about, so that people can see what some of the opportunities that are out there. We also participated in a group of other colleges in Arizona looking at ERPs and also other elements of the administrative systems So that's constantly looking at, okay, does our system meet the needs of the college? Are there better or other opportunities out there? How do we plan to move if we want to move to another enterprise system? And what's the best way to do that to make sure that we're maximizing the use of the college's resources and getting what the systems are that we need to serve the needs of our constituents. So there's a lot of work going on in IT there, really getting integrated with all of the college's operations. And that's a quick and dirty summary of the college's goals. A lot of things will be happening in the spring related to my areas. And with that, I'll ask if the board has any questions related to the goals.
Thank you. We appreciate those reports. Okay, moving on to the next report, update on spring enrollment planning from Phil Burdick.
Hi, board member. I think I will be providing that update for you today. So I'm going to share my screen for you all. All right, good evening, Chairperson of the Board, board members, Chancellor Lambert, colleagues, and guests. My name is David Ariano, and I serve as the Dean of Enrollment Management. And this evening, I would like to provide a brief update on our spring enrollment efforts for the college. And so to begin, I'm going to look backwards a little bit at our fall enrollment period, and the National Student Clearinghouse most recent report indicated that enrollment declines at community colleges have begun to slow compared to a year earlier. However, overall, the community college sector still experienced a 0.5% enrollment decline across the country in fall 22. And so we saw some improvement going on, and when we look at that particular trend and that momentum, it really does continue for us here locally here at Pima with strong headcount and enrollment increases for spring. And so when we look at data from January 4th, we had an 11.9% increase in headcount and a 13% increase in enrollment. And when we dive deeper into this data and start disaggregating it, we can see increases in our Black or African American, Hispanic or Latino, and white ethnicities. As well as when we look at this data from a gender perspective, we see our male population is up 21% compared to last spring. And so when we think about some of those pandemic losses, it really did occur in populations for students of color and in the male gender. And then lastly, our online and our on-campus enrollment is up with our 5 campuses seeing a 19% increase with in-person enrollment compared to last spring. And so I'm going to transition over to some of our efforts that we've been putting in place since early fall. And with spring registration opening up this past November, we've had so many different enrollment initiatives to really support and engage students. And so we conducted marketing campaigns for brand new prospective students, our own current students, former students that may have attended with us and have stopped out in a variety of formats. And those formats include what we would call traditional mail, digital advertising, radio, text messaging campaigns, and emails, including phone calls. And so another exciting development of a lot of that outreach has been the development between external relations and student affairs, where they, through collaboration and joint work, worked on a virtual tour. If you haven't had a chance to see that on our website, I do recommend it. Students are now able to take a tour of all of our campuses and get a glimpse inside of some of those key and highlighted program areas, so they can look inside of the dental hygiene clinic that we offer and see what's going to be offered in that program and some of those unique features of that and the value that it will provide to them. So this is really super important because it allows students to see all the great things that we're offering to them from wherever they're at. And then in addition, so the community engagement team out of external relations has hosted and supported over 100 over 100 community events since September 1st, just really engaging our community, making sure that they understand the value that Pima Community College offers and helping them with admissions and registration. And so I also want to talk about some of the work we've done with our proactive enrollment advising and outreach efforts to all students. And so since that beginning of the spring enrollment period, we've held over 12,000 advising sessions between our enrollment and program advisors. We've sent out a lot of text messages, over 25,000 in a variety of text campaigns that engage new students, nudge new students from a retention and persistence perspective to enroll for that next term. We've held Super Saturday events, and these Super Saturday events are what I would call kind of a one-stop enrollment center concept where students can come in and get services from admissions, financial aid, academic advising, and registration. To date, for our Super Saturday events for the spring, we've had over 200 learners come into our downtown campus and get help from our great advising teams. And our next Super Saturday is this coming weekend at the downtown campus on the 14th. And to capture, I think, some of the success that we've had with Super Saturdays, and I think really the essence of the great work staff is doing, I want to share a powerful story from one of our students. This particular student had become a stopout. Like many of our students came, attended, life got in the way, but was finally able to come back, came into a Super Saturday event after 12 years, met with our enrollment team, got readmitted, met with an advisor, figured out what they needed to take, and eventually registered for math and humanities courses to complete for her degree. The comments and feedback that we got from this particular student was she was just so impressed with the help and the services that she received from these events. And these events, I think, are really a good opportunity for the college to showcase the support and the services that we have, but also help and assist and guide those students through the registration process. And finally, I'll conclude with this slide that really provides a high-level overview of our next steps for enrollment and retention. And with that, I'll pause with any questions or comments.
David?
Yes.
So one of my questions is, so how are you advertising your Super Saturdays?
Yeah, so we're doing Super Saturday advertisements through our social media accounts. We're doing text messages to students based on the different populations they may be in, brand new students or continuing students. And we've had some local news coverage highlighting the event and doing some advertising for us. So we've had a lot of, I think, success with it. In addition, it's on our web pages and in all of our services and internally and some embedded into some of the systems that we have that students would access every day.
Have you considered going to the high schools and junior highs and advertising there with pamphlets to the parents?
Yeah, we've considered that, and so you've all, and for the existing board members, board member Garcia, our dual enrollment and high school transition team is out there also spreading the word about these events, but in conjunction with our dean of dual enrollment, we are talking about ideas related to doing specific events for parents and high school students. And so we're going to be working on that for this upcoming fall registration period. So I will definitely be sharing more with that, more about that with you all in the future.
All right, thank you.
And then David, I also would like to know, are there any plans to reach out to some of the other campuses? I know that there are a lot of students that, you know, if they're on the far east side, they're not going to be able to get to the downtown campus. And also, I'm sure it's the same with Desert Vista and also for the Northwest campus. If a young student doesn't have a vehicle, you know, having it only in one location. Anyway, are there any plans to have it elsewhere?
Yeah, we've definitely taken that into consideration. What's unique about downtown campus is it's right on our bus line, so it's easy access central within the city and off of I-10. So that's been I think a major point and ease of access for students, but there are those conversations about how we can expand that out and making sure that we have the resources to do so that can be effective and provide that holistic support that we've been providing at Super Saturdays.
One more thing on mine, and have you guys considered doing like a special showing at the different schools and then doing the videos with what's being offered at the college? And like have an assembly with the, get permission from the superintendents or the principals from the schools?
Yeah, and I won't speak to all those details, but our Dean of Dual Enrollment, James Palacios, has been working closely with the superintendents. He works with our academic affairs to bring programs out, so to bring faculty and our program advisors out to the high schools to get them that program information to talk about what careers they can do at Pima Community College. And I think it's really tied in with the efforts he's been doing with dual enrollment and getting more students on a pathway to a specific program or career. And so we can definitely get that information to you that team has been working on.
And of course, we still haven't reached out to the 7th and 8th graders.
Yeah, the holistically supporting, I think, college enrollment and looking at post-secondary education. I think one of the sobering data elements out there is when we look at Pima County post-secondary attainment or enrollment rates, it's at 43% of all of our high school seniors. And so, those efforts downstream into middle and elementary school need to be started early in conjunction with our K-12 partners to grow that college-going culture within those school districts and just within our community, because at 43% post-secondary enrollment rate, that's really a low point in the state, and it's something that, collectively we need to work together to improve.
Well, thank you for all the information. You always do a great job.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia.
I have a question. Well, one, I appreciate the mention that you made in the enrollment numbers about disaggregating the data. And I mean, I would love to see, and you don't have to produce this like right at the moment, but if there's future presentations, I'd love to see that data in black and white when we present these, and to be able to disaggregate what that changes. I'm not sure which demographic categories the college tracks, but I'd be curious to know. But I'd love to see that broken out by those categories to see where to see in black and white. I very much appreciate that you mentioned it, but I'd love it to be in the slides as well. And then and maybe this is a limitation to the data, I don't know, but I'd also love to know like which programs are these students enrolling into? Like, as enrollment's increasing, like which are the programs that seem to be attracting more students? And I guess conversely, are there programs that are sort of loss leaders, if you will? Like what are the ones that seem to be not having a lot of interest? I mean, I just would love to know that in terms of how we're moving forward with hopefully enrollment growth.
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Taylor. We do have that information, so our amazing analytics team, STAR, collects all that information. We have it within our systems where we could filter out by different demographic, ethnicities, even at the program level. And so that is information the institution does have and can provide at the board's request if there's specific questions related to demographics or program level data.
Thank you, David. Okay, our next administrative report is from Wendy Weeks for the HLC update.
Okay, good evening, Chair Rial, board members, Chancellor Lambert, colleagues and guests. Thank you for having me. The first thing I would like to do is I would like to say how grateful I am for Ariana Laguna. Without Ariana, I couldn't get these presentations done, and she has done a lot of the logistics for me with the HLC. All right, we are going to talk about the 3 projects going on currently. So the first one is a multi-location visit. And our multi-location visit, this is kind of a normal visit. This occurs every 5 years. So every 5 years, we're going to have one of these. And the HLC will tell us what locations they want to visit. So these locations have to do with areas, high schools, other locations where we offer programs. Now, I put a definition up there about a program because the interesting part is the way they define a program is if 50% of the courses are offered at a location, That's their definition of us offering a program. So we may have a program here at Pima that is 10 courses, but if we offer 5 courses at some other location, they consider that a program. So these visits will start in February. I have the dates up there. I have the locations they're going to visit. At this point in time, we have done a lot of work with them. We have turned in documents that have been requested by the HLC. We are in the middle of setting up the logistics. Ariana and I will be visiting most of these locations over the next 2 weeks, as they have some additional questions for us, and I've never been there. I'm kind of new to this position, so I haven't seen these sites either. So this is our first one, and these are the due dates that are coming up. So I'm doing these in order of when things are due. Our second project is our monitoring report. So I know the monitoring report has been mentioned tonight. This is a report that's going to be due September 1st. And on September 1st, we're going to have to turn our report on the strides we have made, and it's on criterion 2 up there. It's integrity, ethical, and responsible conduct. Back in October, we had a study session with the board, coming up with ideas on how could we show that we have made progress in this. And the way you show the HLC you've made progress is you have to have evidence. So evidence is the tricky piece. It's really hard to say, we did do this. They want proof. What is our evidence? We did do this. So in your board packet, Andrea gave you a copy of what was approved at the November board meeting by the board at that time on evidence we were going to gather between now and that time. So those of you who are new to the board, welcome. You will be hearing a lot more about this. We will be having discussions about some of those pieces of evidence we're going to gather. So we're going to be talking about this a lot more in the next month or two. And the third thing we have going on, our last project right now with the HLC, is our comprehensive evaluation. So again, this is a regular evaluation. This one happens at our 10th year. So we are at year 10. We do have the dates for it, which are December 9th and 10th of 2024. So one of the first things I'm going to ask each of you to do is put in whatever kind of calendar you use, December 9th and 10th of 2024, because we're going to need you. We're going to need you when the HLC comes. They're going to want to have conversations with you. So please block that time off for us because we really need your input. With that, you're going to hear a lot more about the criterion. There are 5 criterion, and there is federal compliance. And I know some of you heard about that from previous board meetings, and some of you heard that with your onboarding. But you're going to get a presentation each month on the criterion. So for example, next month, I believe, is criterion 4. And we have a lead team for each criterion. These teams are in the ballpark of 4 people, and there's 5 criterion and federal compliance. So that's at least 24 people right there. But we have other people on this team who are assurance argument, system administrators, and things like that. So we have a very large team, and you're going to be meeting them, and you're going to hear some of the specifics about it. So we started meeting, as was mentioned by Provost John Sola, in July of 2022, and we were looking at the gaps. And gaps are areas where we know they have been identified in the past, or we have self-identified where we need to do some more work. So those have been looked at. Right now, we are getting into actual pieces of the assurance argument. So again, you'll be hearing about these monthly. We'll have criterion people here, and you'll get to meet a lot of these people. And lastly, we have an embedded report that's due in the assurance argument. The topic of the embedded report is on this slide. And again, it was something that the HLC identified. So this is something we have to do follow-up with as well, but it's going to go directly into our comprehensive evaluation report. So with that, I am happy to take questions.
I have a couple of questions, and I don't know, Wendy, if these are more you would answer, or maybe the Chancellor Lambert would answer, but whoever. the first one is, I mean, I remember watching on YouTube, now that I'm on the other side of the screen, the discussion about the criteria or the things that be measured for that September. And I don't want to, like, you know, derail a train that's already left the station, because I know there's a lot of work that goes into that. But in terms of the timeline, is there an opportunity for the three of us that are new to this board, if we were to put it on an agenda somewhere, to have some input into what that is, or have some further discussion, or does that need to keep moving because of the timelines and everything?
So let me take that question, Wendy. So next week in the board retreat, we've structured it in a way where we're integrating in this piece into the retreat. So absolutely, you'll be able to input into the document to enhance it, et cetera, and better refine what is meant by certain items that are in here. So the answer is yes, but we got to move. Right? And what I worry about is gathering the evidence to demonstrate that the board and the administration are meeting the expectations that have been identified. How we go about that is up to us. But a big emphasis area is on board's roles, responsibilities, governance, and the like. So I think that's an area that's a constant ongoing piece. We couldn't wait for you three of you to be seated, because it takes a while to plan and get presenters in place and so forth. So we leveraged the opportunity to make sure it gets done this month.
No, that makes sense. I appreciate it. And then the second is kind of a two-part question. Maybe they're just two related questions. So I remember reading an article, I think in the Arizona Daily Star in mid-December, that said that the U of A was exploring changing its accrediting body from the HLC to something different. And forgive me, I don't remember what the other thing was. So the two questions that are related to that is, one is, if the U of A does move forward with a different accrediting body, does that impact Pima at all in terms of our ability to transfer and interoperability?
So the short answer is no, because we're all still regionally accredited. And so the whole advantage of being a regionally accredited institution, I mean, really they're all becoming national creditors under this new model, is that our credits will transfer. The real issue about transferability is more nuanced than just the accreditor piece. This is a national challenge for community college transfer to universities. And there's challenges on both sides of that equation. So the short answer is it won't have to impact us. But what it does give insight into is the Trump administration rewrote the rules which allow colleges and universities to forum shop, so to speak. And so you're starting to see some little glimpses of that. However, I think the Biden administration is looking at rethinking that, but they have to go through a rulemaking process as well. So it'll be interesting how those pieces evolve.
And so the second question actually kind of evolves from what you just said, but I mean, I'm curious, and not that I expect either of you to be able to speak for the U of A, so I'm not expecting that, but I'm curious, like, I mean, they're all accrediting to the same, like, what's the difference? Like what an institution of higher learning that wanted to shop for their accrediting body, like what criteria are, like, how are they substantially different than one another?
So, fortunately or unfortunately, I've been in two different regions. So in the Northwest Commission is, I would say, is less structured than the Higher Learning Commission. So that's an important piece. When we were there, they went to a new model where you're being accredited on a 7-year cycle versus a 10-year cycle that we have here at the HLC. But that 7-year cycle, there's other interim reports you're doing. So they're more touches, if you will. So each has their own nuanced way, and then you get into things like faculty credentials for dual enrollment. So the HLC has arguably a higher standard of who can teach college level courses that you might not find from another region. So another region may be more flexible. And that's a real issue, because on the dual enrollment as an example, we can only scale dual enrollment up to the capability of having the faculty to teach it. So if the K-12 system doesn't have master's degree prepared teachers in that discipline, that's a limiter on our ability to deliver. So those are important differences.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to add to that.
Nope, I think that was great. Thank you so much. Anything else?
Thank you so much, Wendy. We appreciated your report. Okay, section 5.2 of this reports is reports by representatives. And our first is the student report, Athena Martinez. Athena, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Hold on, let me call you back.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Board of Governors, and welcome to the new members of the board. Happy New Year. This time we have a couple updates. First, we are making it an anonymous Google form where students can connect with us if they feel a need to remain anonymous with the questions or concerns they have for us. This will be updated to our Pima Engage under Student Senate. With that, the last thing I have to report is that the Student Senate has finally decided on a project. One I believe shows a sense of community and one that will show the diverseness of our fellow students. Our project is to create a quilt and show how students' lives were before college and during. Maybe they are more open and free to be themselves now. Who knows? We want to display it for all future and current students to see and know they are not alone on their journey. We hope to display this quilt throughout PCC and truly initiate its movement so that all students, including our adult education students, will be able to view it. As of today, we are still attending events. We are making ourselves known to the students at all Pima events, which can also be found on the Pima Engage website. Any questions or concerns can be directed to our email at pcc-studentsenators@pima.edu. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you so much. We appreciate what you're doing for the students at the college.
Thank you.
The next report is adjunct faculty report from Sean Mendoza.
So Chair Real, I think if you notice there, it looks like there were a couple where they indicated there's not a report, adjunct faculty and staff report. We might want to confirm that, but the note in the agenda indicates those two don't have a report this month.
I was just looking at the one that.
So in my document, it shows that the adjunct faculty report has no report this month. Also shows, unless the staff submitted something, it also shows the staff has no report this month.
So then the next report is the faculty report from Denise Riley.
That is correct. Thank you. Good evening, Chairperson. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'll just start with this. Good evening, Chairperson Riel, members of the board, Chancellor Lambert, colleagues, and guests. I wanted to share with you, as you're on the board docs right now, that unfortunately my actual report was incorrect previously, so it's been corrected this evening. So it's a 4-page document. So if you look on the faculty report that's attached, it should be correct in there now, but it was incorrect before. It was only a 1-page document. Okay, I'll continue on. Happy New Year and start to the spring 2023 semester. Thank you to our returning board members for continuing to do the important work for our college and community, and welcome and thank you to our new board members for answering the call and stepping up to the incredibly important role for Pima Community College and the community at large. I'm Denise Riley, your faculty representative, and I'm in my 3rd semester of this term, and you will see me through the end of fall 2023. I'm full-time faculty in the Division of College Readiness and Student Success, or also known as STU faculty. I'm a proud, passionate public educator of 23 years in the state of Arizona in public education. I've served in the roles of high school teacher, counselor, club advisor, coach, career counselor, and full-time faculty. My children attend public schools in the Unified School District of Marana. While my colleague Sean, who did not make a report tonight, reports on behalf of the adjunct faculty. I report on behalf of all faculty with a special lens to full-time faculty. In this role as governing board representative and faculty senate officer, I attend monthly faculty senate meetings, also monthly meetings with the administrative leadership team, and report to each group about each group. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, as I'm a conduit and voice at PCC for faculty. As full-time faculty, we teach courses in all modalities across all campuses, contribute to overall college initiatives, support and serve on various college committees, hold faculty advising office hours for students, update and improve curriculum as needed, as mentioned in a former report by the provost, and professionally develop each year. I submit a written report to you monthly that gives you an idea, a snapshot, or a summary of all the meetings attended and the ongoings related to faculty at the college, with links to each of the individual reports. I welcome you to attend, they are public for you, to attend any of our Faculty Senate meetings beginning this Friday, once a month. Faculty are the heart and soul of any educational institution, and we thank you in advance for supporting our role as faculty at Pima Community College. Thank you. And that's all.
Thank you, Denise. And then the last representative report is by the administrator report by Jim Craig.
Good evening, Chair Real, distinguished board, Chancellor Lambert, PCC family and friends. My name is Jim Craig and I'm the Dean of Business and Information Technology. It's my pleasure to be your representative for the administration. I'd like to take a minute to actually also congratulate Emily Halverson Otts, the Dean of Sciences, for the CCPI STEM Fellowship that she's been selected to receive. You may not know this, but that fellowship is really focused on community college faculty and administrators to nurture their leadership skills in order to grow and diversify the STEM technician workforce. It's actually funded by the Advanced Technology Education Grant from the National Science Foundation, and it provides an honorarium of $5,000 annually for 2 years to each of the selected individuals. So congratulations again, Emily. Pima Community College is one of 11 distinguished recipients of the Strata Education Network Employer and Community College Partnership Grant. These 2-year grants of up to $400,000 each were awarded to innovative collaborations across the country between community colleges and employers in the region. Recipients will also participate in opportunities to learn from other community college and employer partnerships through a community of practice and building connections across regions. PCC's focus will include emergency medical services, machining, building construction technology, automotive technology, advanced manufacturing, and information technology. These will enhance partnership between Pima Community College and employers to meet labor market needs, provide access to skilled jobs in high growth areas that catalyze economic resilience. Employers reduce their hiring risk by partnering with PCC on programs like our Pima Fast Track that introduce learners to a new career path where they can develop entry-level skill sets. Pima Fast Track completers enter with a better understanding of the industry they're entering and with more skills than the traditional new hire. On December 9th, the college held its first Data Summit. Over 60 faculty, staff, and administrators attended the summit to engage in data conversations aligned with the student experience. The equity and retention team of Amanda Abens, Jackie Allen, Oslin Kashira, Ilda Ladner, and Jeff Tees planned the event as part of an overall plan to bring awareness to equitable student outcomes. Not just for the classroom, by the way, but for all student services across the college. The event targeted 18, spanning the student experience, the entire student experience at the college. The goal was to provide the teams the opportunity to expand their knowledge of data availability and data disaggregation, discuss the challenges and successes with other teams, and take next steps in creation or continuous improvement in support of student retention. We plan on having another data summit this spring. And finally, Aurora Sardina is an Iraq veteran, mother, Latina, Tohono O'odham member, and now a cybersecurity expert as a recent graduate from PCC with her AAS in cybersecurity. After years of working in the service sector after an honorable discharge from the military, Aurora had been looking for a career that would offer job security, stability, and intellectual stimulation when she enrolled in Pima in 2018. After many years of not utilizing it, she finally used her post 9/11 GI Bill toward her higher education. While self-doubt can emerge, she says, hey, we won't know until we try, you know. So that's what it's all about. For now, Aurora is savoring her achievement of graduating from Pima and setting an example for her teenage children. As a first-generation college graduate, she wants to see their potential and pursue their dreams. She has successfully transferred to the University of Arizona, where she will pursue a bachelor's degree in cyber operations with an emphasis on defense and forensics. Aurora wants to join the fight to stop child sex trafficking. Eventually, her goal is to serve the nation once again by joining the Department of Defense. Thank you. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Jim. So just on to the next ones that have the
Sure.
Okay. So section 6, information items. Our first is a financial report.
Madam Chair, you skipped my report.
Skip 5.3.
I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you. So 5.3, the Chancellor's report.
Yes, well,
Thank you.
Happy New Year's, everybody. And I know we haven't started the new term yet, but many folks are just returning, especially our faculty. We will be beginning welcoming them back very soon here with courses starting, I believe, on the 19th. So congratulations, Board Member Real, for becoming the chairperson for the board. Greg, chairperson, not chairperson, Board Member Taylor, congratulations also on your election. And I also want to welcome Board Member McLean, Dr. McLean.
Thank you.
For being appointed to the board. I thought I'd just share just some high-level things for you this time around. So going back to the question that you asked earlier, Board Member Taylor, about kind of the measurement system. So I'm going to talk really high level at the moment. So the federal government uses IPEDS, institutional post-secondary education. I forget what the D stands for off the top of my head. So, but that is used for first-time, full-time students. So that's the group that we're tracking through these different momentum points or different measures. So usually we're looking at persistence, retention, completion, and access. So those are kind of like the big four, if you will. But the challenge with the IPEDS, it's only looking at first-time, full-time students. So what Pima has done, along with a number of other community colleges across the country, as well as the other 9 districts in the state of Arizona, we have voluntarily joined a consortium that uses what we call the VFA, the Voluntary Framework for Accountability. It's a more holistic view of the mission of community colleges. We don't just serve first-time, full-time students. We serve a lot more students than that. It also takes into account our developmental education pieces, as well as our workforce pieces, so it's more holistic. So what happens in our world, we'll speak certain things, and you may be thinking one thing and we're talking something else. So I want to just kind of, and maybe sometimes just reminding us, are you talking from the VFA or are you talking from IPEDS? We typically will be talking from a VFA framework just because it's just a little more comprehensive. So let me just touch on some metrics that we use in that measurement system. So we look at fall to next term, and I'll share with you the data from Pima just so you have a context for this. So fall to next term persistence rates is what we look at. At Pima, for 2019, essentially we have closed the equity gaps from all the different demographic groups that we have at the college. So whether we're looking at our Hispanic Latino students, our African American Black students, our Native American students, and our white students and our Asian students, you're seeing that we're doing pretty well, and that where our gap lies is in the gender piece when it comes to persistence, females outpacing males. Then it allows us to have comparisons to the other colleges as well. So Pima does pretty well compared to the other Arizona colleges. We also refer to persistence rates fall to fall. So it gets confusing, right, when you start to get into, again, that looks very strong for Pima Community College across those demographics I mentioned. Also notable, the gender gap. And then we look at AJEC. So that's unique to the state of Arizona. And if you look at our completion rates for AJEC, we're pretty much, from an equity standpoint, in line across those demographic areas. Again, the real gap is in the female to male gap in that area. Now, the number is the issue. We're at 23% in terms of completion. We've got to get that number up. And so we need to set appropriate goal around that. And so you'll hear us talking more about that piece as we go forward. But where we really fall short is on the transfer and on the completion side. And so that's where a lot of the work is. So when the provost was talking, she didn't show you these metrics. She was talking about the activities we're engaging in to help us try to improve those things. So what we will do in the future is better align those activities with the actual measurement system that we have, and then we can show you what our benchmark is compared to other institutions. I think that's what you're asking for. Am I better?
That's exactly what I was asking for. The only thing I would add is also the goal, right? Like it's at this percent, and that could be a 1-year goal or a 3-year goal or whatever it is, or a 5-year goal. I would just love to see this is where we'd like it to be in X amount of time.
And she, for example, has set a very ambitious goal. It's aligned to the state's goal of 60%. So we've taken that, harmonized that with Pima County and called it 60% completion of either a certificate or degree that has value in the marketplace for adults 25 to 64, I believe it is. So that's the overarching piece. And then the provost has set a completion goal of doubling our completions. So we're probably around, I want to say about 3,800 a year-ish. We want to get to about 6,000, and then doubling per the different key demographics. So that's the overarching piece that she's working from, and then and she just talked about the activities, okay? So I want to help clarify that. Also, we are looking at getting better at identifying, so these are lag measures that I'm talking about. That's what these reports really reflect, these lag measures. We're trying to do a better job around the lead measures so that we get more quicker feedback on how we're performing so that we can address intervention strategies more quickly. So, for example, the provost is looking at ABC or WDF rates. We know where you are, and as you know, Board Member Real, that you're going to know if a student's going to, probably very early on, whether they're going to be on track for a certain grade. Can we intervene sooner as opposed to waiting till they get to the end of the term and it's like, oh, now here you are. Well, by that time, it may be too late, and now you're on probation with financial aid at risk of losing your financial aid, as opposed, could we have intervened at that moment you gave that first assessment and saw this person isn't tracking very well? Let's get some help in there. So those are the things we're working on to strengthen. So that's one side. The other side is relevancy of our programs. So there may not be clear measurements about that. So that's where you see, are we integrating the virtual reality and some of these newest technologies as enhancements that will help improve these measures. And so that's what we're trying to get a better handle on. Again, I think I understand what you're asking, and so we can do a better job of translation around the presentations. Now with David Ariano's presentation, he's actually has a very voluminous, what we call our SENP plan, Strategic Enrollment Management Plan, that sets goals by high schools. So we've identified the goals we think we should be able to optimize in terms of enrollments by high school, which rolls up into an overall enrollment goal, if you will. And so the details there, if you want to see that, or we can just show you the high-level number, and that way you kind of see what we're trying to aim for. But I'll put that all in a larger context, and that is I highly encourage you, if you haven't read The Great Upheaval, I think we got you all the copies. That is where the puck is going for higher education. And we have to not lose sight of that reality, right? That higher education is we're in the process of being disrupted. And it's hard to feel it completely, but you know something isn't right. So the competition is fierce. We're losing market share, not just Pima, but to the Coursera's and the Udemy's. These are the online providers. They're taking more and more market share. And if you look at ASU as an example, I think you can see that their enrollment growths are explosive in the online space. The U of A is also moving into that space. So we have to be in that space. But we have to be in that space with a competitive product, if you will, that students want to take. So that's one important piece of this technological piece. But the demographics, the low fertility rates are hitting this community. We had the state's demographer come, do a presentation at the college. State of Arizona is not looking good, and Pima County especially is not looking good. So we don't look like a pyramid. We look more like a boa constrictor. That's going to affect enrollments. We have to just understand that's going to affect enrollments. We won't be able to grow back to a certain size, but can we do a better job of optimizing what is already in the community? 43% college going rate, I think there's room to expand that. That's why the emphasis on dual enrollment. But what we need to do is try to get more of those students to also transfer after they're finished. So we're going to do a summer bridge program with Sunnyside, and if that goes well, then we want to scale that to other schools. So those are just examples. But I encourage you to read The Great Upheaval. Now, since I think you're going to be our state rep, the state's going to be doing a statewide conference for the board. I believe they're going to bring in Scott Van Pelt to talk about the Great Upheaval, but they're also going to bring in the gentleman from the National Student Clearinghouse to talk about those demographics and the program areas that are of interest. Now, going back to the program, I know you asked a question about that. We do know which programs are starting to attract students, so a lot of our Center of Excellence areas looks like that's starting to attract those learners. And our male numbers are going up, and I suspect that they track with those Centers of Excellence pieces, because the two areas where we've had the most drops in enrollment have been with our male students and with our white population. We are not performing to the numbers in the community. So just know that both of those are powering back up. So with that said, let me just hit two other pieces and then just close. I do a lot of work in the community, as you know. I think, and so I want to say to the faculty and staff and administration and to you as a board, that award is a reflection that Pima has more things going right for it than not. If you want to find something that's not working, you will find it. But if you want to find the things that are working, that's how Emily gets that recognition. That's how I've gotten this recognition. That's how the college has been recognized by Harvard. That's why Forbes is recognized. We can't discount those things. Those are real. But that doesn't mean that everybody agrees, because they don't. So I don't want to sugarcoat that, but I don't want us to lose sight of that. So I want to thank everybody because of all of what we've done together, that I get to be the one standing up in front of the community to accept the Man of the Year award. That would not happen without each and every one of our great employees. And then I look forward to our retreat next week, because I think that's an opportunity for us to really reset. I would look at this year as the year of reset. Reset things with our relationship with the board and myself, my team, and get really centered and grounded and stay focused, because the disruption is such that we can't afford not to be together. Otherwise, we're not going to weather that storm. So that's my report, Madam Chair.
So question for the information items. Do we go through each one of them, or?
No. So for information items, we just note that typically there's actually a little statement about that, but essentially they're just background information that was provided to the board. If a board member has a really brief, kind of minor question, we can deal with it, but it's more if it provides some background information and it might spark your thoughts on a future more in-depth agenda item, but we don't usually discuss them.
Okay, then moving on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any comments? I have a point of privilege, another question. So the three of us weren't part of the executive meeting or the regular meeting last time. So, I mean, when we vote to approve this, we're assuming that none of us were there, so we're just saying, since everybody else is okay with those minutes, that it's good.
I have a question, though. Okay, so on the consent agenda, we had the special session, and the data that was presented wasn't as complete as I would have liked it. But this is not the time, then, to go back at that. Is that correct? Well, it was referring to the was it Nick Richmond who presented the data on the faculty and the adjunct faculty? It was like it was a report on how well they accepted the survey.
So you're talking about the minutes and the capturing of her report.
Right.
So the question is, did the minutes capture her report accurately, not whether you agreed with her report?
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's what you're referring to, right? Yeah.
Right, and so you can correct me if I'm not interpreting this correctly, but the other issue would be if the board would like further discussion about that or to bring it back or detail, et cetera, we can do that. That's a separate question from whether the minutes are a fair summation of what happened at that meeting. So if you do want further conversation about that topic, then that would be a perfectly appropriate thing to request when we get to the section of the agenda on future agenda items. I guess the one other thing I was going to say, just to assure our new board chair about the accuracy of minutes, at least with respect to the regular meeting. Now remember, they're recorded and posted. So if there were really a question about what happened at a meeting, in addition to the minutes, there is a full recording, both audio and video of everything that happened.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on to item 8, the action item. The board's going to discuss and give direction regarding the format for upcoming board meetings. So just to start off, I would like to also ask a question. When we were talking about this in December, Greg and I were talking, and Greg said, he was okay with them being public meetings unless there was specific information that we weren't aware of that would make it, unreasonable to have them in public. So, I mean, that's where we should start off, I would say, is what are the reasons? I mean, there are many reasons to have them public and open to all our constituents and all of our employee groups and students, et cetera. But what are the reasons why we might not be aware of why we should not have them public?
By public, you mean the option to come in person. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm following what you're saying. Okay.
Right, so maybe I can start us out with. So the board had made a decision, and the board had never voted to change that decision. So as your chancellor, it's not my place to decide something that was decided by the board. So I just want to, put that out there, because the board hadn't come together in this environment again to build off of prior board decisions. Then that's why we're where we are now. So with that said, what we did was we used the data coming out of the Pima County Health Department. They have their metrics that they look at in terms of COVID rates, and then they use a red, yellow, green to talk about the different levels. So we track that to determine our comfort level with, the board did, okay? We just presented, here's where things are. And they made the decision to the board meetings are always open. The difference is open in what way, right? So they've not been closed. So I want us to be careful about our terminology. It's just we didn't, the openness for people to come into this room. So one of the big metrics, going back to the metrics, was the hospital bed utilization rates. So if the beds are all full, well, that means that other people can't access that care. So that was an important metric in all of this. So with that said, I think now we provided some of the updated data here about where those metrics are. And then I know now there's the RSV that's become an issue, and the flu has been an issue. But again, with the data here, I think that puts you in a position to decide what you think is best going forward.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion for discussion purposes. I would move that beginning with our next meeting, that all of our meetings are in person, meaning that the public can come into this room and watch and participate in the meetings live.
I second.
So, and maybe this is potentially a friendly amendment, but just for me, it's important from an accessibility standpoint, because I completely agree with you. People should be allowed in this room to come in person, but I think, whether it's our students or our constituents that ever also lead busy lives. So I think having the option to do a public comment or to attend via Zoom, in addition to having the option to come here in person, is important, because it increases the number of individuals that can potentially participate, whether they, I remember watching my kids' school board meetings in the middle of dinner in the height of COVID, and I definitely couldn't have come down there in person even if I wanted to. So if you're amenable to it, and from the second, I would agree that we should reopen this room for the public to be able to attend, but I would offer a friendly amendment to retain the Zoom option if someone prefers that for whatever reason.
Madam Chair, before I accept that friendly amendment, I'd like to ask staff if there's any if that were to occur, are we going to have to throw more resources at the meeting, or are we prepared to do that without additional costs?
I'd have to go back and ask the team, but I think generally we were moving in the direction of being able to do what Board Member Taylor was talking about.
Hybrid meetings.
Hybrid meetings, yes. But if you want to know what it cost us to do that, and is there going to be additional costs, we certainly can bring that to the board.
Okay. With that, I'll accept the friendly amendment with my motion. And the second?
Do we do friendly amendments here?
Yeah, so...
it's a new era.
So, yes, well, so it's actually...
it's a new era.
Depending who's given it.
Friendly amendments.
So that is it is a regular practice, has been a regular practice of the Pima College Governing Board, and it is reflected in the bylaws. So if someone makes a motion and another board member wants to offer a friendly amendment, then it's up to the person who made the original motion, they can decide, yep, I accept that. If they accept it, then that is the motion on the floor. If they don't accept it, then it's a request to amend, and then the board would have to vote, and if the majority votes in favor of it, now you have a new motion. But we have allowed for friendly amendments. And if I might, just one other quick thing, just Sue, if there's other information you would like about the public health related status at any point, so the college, as the pandemic and public health situation picked up, the college created, so we have a task force, the Pandemic Advisory Committee. It has representation from, faculty and administrators who have a background in healthcare. It's got facilities who have an environmental health safety background, legal. So it's a multidisciplinary group, and we look at that data on a regular basis, and as the chancellor is indicating, we look at leaders, what's the testing positive rate, what are the trends in neighboring states, so we look at all of that, and then that group makes recommendations to the rest of the college about are there ways in which we should modify operations in order to minimize the risks. So that there's a group that looks at that on a regular basis, and I'm sure would be, I'm going to volunteer them on part of the group. Certainly as the board at any time wants additional data or has particular aspects you're interested in, we have the ability to provide that information.
So then one more question, does the person who seconded that, also, does he or she also have to agree to the friendly amendment, or are we just good to vote?
No, so the practice has always been if the person who made the original motion accepts it as a friendly amendment, the motion is now amended. Okay.
I just have one more question. It's not directly related, but it's close. When last semester in, I think it was October, there was a board meeting, I think on the 9th or the 12th, and then there was a public, I'm not sure if everybody was invited, but there were people here to talk about the HLC report. And my question was that put to a vote at that time to have it be open? Because, I mean, not open, public participation here. And my question is, I know that we're voting on it this time, but is this always the case that items like this actually need to be voted upon? Or is it another thing that the board, if we all agreed, we don't need to take time here to do?
So generally the board can't take action except in an open notice meeting, and part of what may have, I don't know what to call it, created some level of confusion is the level of remoteness or virtualness, if those are words, that we used at meetings did vary over times during the pandemic, right? And that would be in consultation with the board of, well, there's a new spike, what do you want to do about that? Or things seem to be returning back to normal, what do you want to do about that? So there was sort of ongoing consultation between the chancellor and the staff that organized board meetings and the board at board meetings about whether or not, what do you want to do? So the other thing that the board can do is, per the bylaws, the organizing the work of the board is primarily the responsibility of the chair in consultation with the chancellor. And so the other thing the board can do and has for certain types of situations said, well, we'll let the chair and the chancellor figure out the logistics for a particular board meeting. So you could decide whether to do that or not. The other question would be whether do you want to build into that motion some level of flexibility that if there were certain thresholds met, that would trigger a different type of board meeting or delegate to someone the authority to make those decisions. So, and you don't have to make that decision tonight either. We're not in the middle of you may decide we're not in a situation where we need to make that decision tonight, and we could do that at a subsequent board meeting.
Madam Chair, I don't think we're at that point. I think we'll let the people in, and then if these issues become more problematic, then we come back to the table and we talk about how we want to make that decision. So I call for the question.
So can I ask one just clarifying question from a staff question? When you, does your motion include any element of that whether we should have some spacing element built into the seating plan? In other words, we should think about how much the capacity of the room is for people. Do you want to do that? Do we want to So,
Do you want me to answer my position is that we make recommendations to the people, recommend social distancing, recommend wearing a mask. Details like that worked out between the chair and the chancellor.
Sorry. The chair and the chancellor? I'm sorry, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I disagree with that, and I'm going to tell you why. In the past, the chair and the chancellor were the only ones that communicated and voted and did things without letting the entire board know. If we're a board, then we should all participate, okay? It makes it a lot easier instead of, one of the rules of HLC is, are you autonomous to make decisions in the best interest of the college? Well, when you have different agendas, that may not be the case. I don't want to see us get into that again. So please consider that.
I do think I read that somewhere, that it needs to be just, a board decision for agenda items and things like that also, not just between the chair and the vice chair and the chancellor. So yeah, we'll definitely reach out to all of us. We'll all be paying attention. So can I call for, you called for the vote. Are we done discussing?
So is what you just said in the motion? No, I'm sorry, I'm losing track of what is in the.
No, it's not in the motion.
Okay.
Didn't you just call for a vote just now?
I did.
Yes.
I'm just clarifying what exactly are we voting?
I was going to say, would it be help? Maybe perhaps Mr. McLean would restate the motion.
I will try that we have our meetings in person, open to the public, but also allow for people outside of the room to participate in the remarks from the public.
And then there was the bit about socially distancing, being, self-aware and wearing a mask and that sort of thing too. We'll offer those, not requirements, but just reminders to the public.
So if I might offer, even though I'm not a board member, a friendly amendment to the prior thing, perhaps one way to phrase that would be that we would recommend the same health protection measures that the Pima County Health Department recommends, but they're recommendations, not requirements.
I don't think I'm ready to go that far, because they make a decision and we automatically have to agree to it.
What I was trying to do to simplify, but I perhaps haven't done that, would be to say that our recommendations for the recommendations from the board to the public about the meeting would mirror what the Pima County Health Department does. So if the Pima County Health Department recommends that there should be social distancing at meetings, we would recommend that too. If they recommend people wear a mask, or if they're not feeling well or wear a mask, we would mirror that recommendation.
Not require it, just that our recommendations would match whatever the county health department recommends, I think is what we're talking about.
That's what I was trying to suggest as a way to simplify the concept. But if you don't like that, then that's entirely up to you. Obviously, you're the author of the motion.
I'm happy with the motion and the amendment.
Okay, then all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, moving on to number 9, request for future agenda items. I did mention earlier, because I had read it in that little splurb, so that's why I thought that was the time for me to say that. But I would like for the board to look at board policy 1.25, and that's basically, it used to be called meet and confer, and it had to do a lot with different work groups feeling like actually involved in the whole process. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I don't ever remember having 300 plus, 500 plus, whatever it was, complaints about pay raises before. And I do agree that this time it was because the whole pay structure got changed in a lot of the different areas. But I think that the more people involved in these class and comp decisions means more eyes, more brains looking at it, and that would, ameliorate the situation, and maybe we'd have fewer disgruntled people at the very end. So anyway, if there's any way that we could maybe even have it in a study session, or talk about it before we actually vote on it, just to bring people up to date, and maybe have David B. come in here and people from the different, the people who are contributing to AERC, I think that's the letters, the different groups that were also participating in that, so they could maybe give us, their, what worked and what needs to be improved. Thank you.
Do you need a second for that, or does it just one person?
So this is just board members suggesting, this is a topic I would like at a future board meeting, and then as the chair, vice chair, chancellor, staff figure out a meeting schedule and organizing, then we will take that, those topics and figure out how to schedule them and get further input from the board. So this is purely this is a topic I would like at a future meeting section of the meeting.
So I have some. So I would like to add, to revisit the chancellor's goals, review our bylaws, specifically BP 105, BP 106, also general counsel representation for the board. I'd also like to have a review of the hotel's repurposing, legal fee for board members, the train project and cost. I think I covered delegation of authority to the chancellor. Bylaw number 5, Article 5. And then the other part is how information is collected on enrollment, because one of the things that the chancellor mentioned was the fact that with different programs, they've come up with a system. And, I'm under the impression that when you count enrollment or footsies, some of the programs are small, like the general ed. And how do you really count those? How can those really be in enrollment? How is that done? So I think that for all of us, it would be really beneficial for us to know exactly how the data is being collected and what's being counted. I'd like to know what the graduation rates are.
Along with the enrollment too, I would like to, I don't know if this is the right way to say it or put it, but when we see graphs, I would like them to be more explanatory. I don't want to have a title of graph be an enrollment trend and then a bunch of numbers, and that's all we know. We don't know. I mean, we can guess if it's footsie or if it's head count based on the size of the number, but people who aren't familiar with those different ways we talk about enrollment, it could be completely misleading if we don't know what they are. So I would like to have, especially on enrollment numbers, I think that's something that needs to be clear and very well defined.
And I have one more, I'm sorry, that I missed. I would like to have a special session on the board considering offering bachelor degrees and science degrees. If we want to increase enrollment, we want to continue it. There are some programs I believe and the faculty could be more beneficial in helping us. I know it's not going to happen immediately, but we should really consider those because it's a lot cheaper to have it at Pima. Plus, we would have the retention that we need and people would go through the program.
Any others? Okay, well, thank you so much. Okay, so item 10, adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Do we vote on that?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Adjourn.
all.
About time you use that.